Welcome to Access Asia. I'm Molly Hall. Coming up in the show, Pakistan's call to arms. An increasing number of people are carrying weapons as they take their personal safety into their own hands. And shark finning in Indonesia. Despite conservation efforts, local fishermen say the rewards are too big to resist. Plus, a quarter of Japanese men over 30 have never had sex. We take a look at the rise of Japan's middle-aged virgins. But first, it has one of the greatest per capita gun ownership rates in the world. Over 18 million weapons are circulating in Pakistan, not all of them legal. Well, recent terror attacks have spurred an increasing number of people to arm themselves or hire armed guards for protection. Our correspondents have more on where the weapons come from and whether they really help to keep people safe.
Latif Afridi never travels without his guards. These armed men protect his life in a city where the Taliban often targets progressive-minded lawyers like him. He recently escaped an attempt on his life when a bomb planted outside his house failed to explode.
When they see that I have guards, well, that's a deterrent. Everyone wants to live, except suicide bombers who've been brainwashed. So when they see that I have guns, well, they don't dare attack me.
Like Afridi, many Pakistanis are taking their personal safety into their own hands. As a result, the country is becoming increasingly weaponized. In Peshawar alone, more than 800 licenses are issued every month. But where are all the weapons coming from? The guns have traveled some 40 kilometers from a manufacturing hub. Buyers from every corner of Pakistan come here to select their weapon of choice. And with that, the arms industry continues to thrive.
Security companies buy from us. Nowadays, even schools are reinforcing. They're using guards. This is the type of weapon that goes to the security guards at these schools.
Today, there are more than 18 million legal and illegal weapons on the streets of Pakistan. But for those in search of safety, even more measures are put into place.
If you see the houses of the rich in Pakistan, they're surrounded by barbed wire, they have private security guards, and they have guards who carry not just pistols, but they carry rifles, automatic weapons.
Here in Rawalpindi, home to Pakistan's army headquarters, regular attacks mark a swift escalation of violence against the Shiite community. Since the beginning of the year, 4 mosques have been attacked and more than 100 people killed.
Sadly, we can't rely on the police. Sometimes they're here, sometimes not, but we can't depend on them. We can only trust our own guards.
While worshippers continue to stream into mosques, many fear that the long-simmering insurgency will grow even more violent across the nuclear-armed nation of 180 million. For these local residents, weaponization is not the answer.
Well, now they survived not one, but 2 deadly earthquakes in Nepal. Many people lost homes and loved ones. Well, scores of others, well, they were also permanently disabled. And though they received medical help, they now face a daunting future with Nepal's rugged terrain, limited infrastructure, and few rehabilitation services. Catherine Viette has more.
10-year-old Maya survived the 2 earthquakes that devastated Nepal, but she lost her leg when the roof of her house collapsed. The disasters killed nearly 9,000 people and left an estimated 18,000 injured, many missing limbs. Doctors warn time is of the essence in treating these disabilities.
There are still a lot of patients who have received no treatment for, a lot of, disability, potentially disability-causing injuries, So I really feel that, this is only the tip of the iceberg.
Aid groups say they've learned lessons from past disasters. The 2010 quake in Haiti saw a flood of new amputees and fueled the acquisition of thousands of artificial limbs. But experts say such measures are both expensive and unsustainable. This nonprofit hospital in Kathmandu uses local materials to manufacture artificial limbs for children.
As opposed to having a $30,000 prosthesis or a $3,000 prosthesis, if we use our $30 prosthesis, we can have so many as the child grows up, Of course, if you have better material available, it becomes more maneuverable and, that would be desirable, but, we have to keep in mind the context.
After her injury in April, Maya's replacement leg is finally ready.
I like my new leg. I think I'll be able to walk quickly with it.
But Maya's challenges are far from over. Nepal is already dealing with a shortage of therapists and a lack of basic infrastructure for amputees.
There's a great opportunity with all the reconstruction that will take place to build disability-friendly infrastructure, especially in Kathmandu Valley, but also all the shelter that will be rebuilt in the districts, that they take into consideration the new reality of more people living with disabilities in these remote areas.
As Nepal looks to rebuild, advocates for amputees say that unless things change, children like Maya will face an uphill battle against unforgiving terrain.
That was Catherine Viet reporting there. Well, now, shark fin soup. It's a delicacy in China, but it's detrimental to the shark population. Well, every year, tens of millions of sharks are fished and killed for their fins, although the numbers have dropped in recent years. Well, conservation groups are working to raise awareness about the negative impact of finning. Still, it continues to be a lucrative trade, particularly for fishermen and traders in Indonesia. Oliver Ferry reports.
They're three childhood friends who have become, like many from their native island of Lombok, shark hunters. The hooks are long and thick, the bait tuna steaks, and the line at least 500 metres long. And then they just have to wait 3 or 4 hours before the sharks bite. In perfectly calm waters, the three friends catch a grey reef shark. It's a young one, but already 2 metres long. The shark tires itself out trying to get free of the hook. By the time it's hauled aboard, it's nearly dead.
When I saw it in the water, I felt I already had money in my hand, like I had the notes themselves.
How much?
About 1 million rupiah.
About 65 euros all told is what each shark fetches. It's a lot of money for these fishermen, and it has attracted many to the trade. A few years ago, only about 20 boats went out from here daily. Now it's over 100. The first boats have come back in and their catches are being unloaded. Small sharks barely a metre long, but the crew also bring up from the hold beasts weighing several hundred tons. The weight of this one drags a crew member into the water with it. Indonesia is the world's #1 shark fisher. 110,000 tons fished every year. A small group of buyers is gathered on the shore. The sharks are expected to make good money. Each one is sold whole, but only part has any real value.
The meat can fetch up to €1.50 per kilo. Then there's the skin, which is dried out and used. It sells for €10 per kilo. And finally, there's the fin, which is the most expensive. And that's why we fish them.
The price is out of proportion to the rest of the animal, €270 per kilo, more than the monthly salary of an Indonesian police officer. Most of the shark fins are sold off to China, where they're used for medicinal purposes and in soups at wedding banquets. It's a practice that has attracted condemnation both in China and abroad, but for these Indonesian fishermen, the rewards are too big to resist.
Well, now using art as sex ed, we cross to Japan, where a growing number of middle-aged men have never had sex. Well, some say sluggish economy or a change in traditional society has caused the increase. Louis Massey reports on how art is being used to cater to the real-life 40-year-old virgins.
This may be the closest 41-year-old Takashi Sakai has ever been to a naked woman. Like a surprising number of middle-aged Japanese men, he's a virgin. And while it may sound like a joke or a Hollywood film, for men like him, it's no laughing matter.
When you are young, you are afraid of rejection. I think it's true that many people now just pretend that they have no feelings about sex instead of risking outright failure.
A 2010 survey found around 1 in 4 unmarried Japanese men in their 30s had never had sex, up nearly 3% on a 1992 poll. Why then the increase? Some say 20 years of economic stagnation is taking its toll on the nation's libido.
There is, of course, the economic factor. Over the last 2 decades, the situation for Japanese men has been very tough and competitive.
On top of that, changes in Japanese society, such as the disappearance of arranged marriages, mean that a proportion of men lack the guidance previous generations enjoyed. And despite the abundance of sexual imagery in Japan, some people just aren't talking about sex. This art class hopes to change that by offering men the chance to encounter the naked female form in a neutral environment.
In today's Japan, we have no place to learn about sex, how to build a romantic relationship or get married. When you communicate with others, sex is one essential factor. It is important to know how to control it and how to handle it.
Middle-aged virgin Takashi may never find the love of his life, but with events like this, maybe one day he'll have the courage to try.
Well, that's it for this edition. Don't forget you can always watch this show and others on our website at france24.com. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you again next time on Access Asia.